George Stephanopoulos conducted this interview. This was one of the biggest rookie mistakes, and I'm actually shocked that George made it. TMZ caught up with George in New York City. Check this out.
Hey, excuse me. Hey, how you doing? Good. What do you think? Do you think Biden should step down? You talked to him more than anybody else have lately, and you could be honest. Serve 4 more years. You don't think he can serve 4 more years? All right, that's an answer.
I don't think he can serve 4 more years. Now, I think Stephanopoulos, you can see he's walking down the street. He's got his headphones on. He's probably on his way to or from the gym, caught off guard. What a rookie mistake. Oh, my God. Now, look, I've made my mistake, so I'm not, but that was a rookie mistake. Now, he's walking it back and saying, I shouldn't have taken the bait. ABC saying that he speaks for himself. But you notice no one's denying that the statement he made, that he shouldn't say 4 more years. He's not saying, I didn't mean to say that. I apologize. I got caught. No, he's saying, I should have engaged. He's not distancing himself from the analysis. And maybe part of the reason is in today's Cook Political Report. They moved 6 states towards Trump in its electoral college ratings. Right? The only ones that they're not moving to Trump just yet are the ones that Biden has to have. The ones that we did on that map to 270 that I showed you the other day. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, where I said, that's it. That's the key to the election. Yep, they came to the same conclusion. But this is what they did. They moved Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada have gone from toss up to lean Republican. And they moved Minnesota, New Hampshire, Nebraska, 2nd Congressional District from likely Dem to lean Dem. Everything's moving in Trump's direction. This is a problem. No kidding. The reason that they're freaking out. By the way, one other fallout. You heard me mention this with the panel the other day. I said that Biden's only thing left right now is to say that, I may not walk and talk like I used to, but I know how to tell the truth. Well, the RNC responded. Brand new website out called Biden Fact Check. Biden Fact Check. And it's all of his myths, truths, lies, misstatements, gaffes for his decades. Check it out because it's kind of cool. All right, I want to bring in Brent Buchanan from Cygnal Polling to get the latest on where things stand. All right, it's the man with the numbers. Brent, everybody's been waiting with bated breath. Talk to me about how the presidential race has changed since that big disastrous debate.
Well, I think it's gone as well for Biden after that debate as it's gone during the debate. Not only did he kill Medicare, he's also killed his own campaign in the process. And one thing that you see in polling, at least that we've seen in what we call the Trump era, is that when these disastrous moments happen for Democrats tend to just lose their ballot share a little bit. So it changes the net margin in the race. But the Republican doesn't really pick up the difference in the two. So that's historically been, I guess, since about the 2018 midterms where we've seen this phenomenon. And you've seen it happen in special elections like New York 3 and other places. And the Democrats come home. But one thing that was really different about after this debate was the fact that Trump was able to pick up more than Biden lost on his ballot share. In national polling. And again, national polling doesn't matter as much, but it's a good leading indicator to see what's shifting within different voter groups, different voter coalitions. And much of what we saw was not just Biden losing ballot share. It was Trump actually adding to his ballot share and getting to the highest point that we've had him in polling in the last 18 months.
So when you look at each candidate, Biden first and then Trump, if you will, where's Biden losing support and where's Trump gaining it?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I know.
And it's, historically with the realignment of the bases in meaning that, non-college educated voters are now Republicans and college educated voters are now Democrats. And for decades, it was the opposite. You would expect the growth to be further for Trump within non-college educated voters, but it's actually college educated voters that shifted the most after this debate. And I think that's because, they're looking for stability and they want politics to be a little bit less crazy. That's why they left the Republican Party once Trump came onto the scene, because they saw him as chaotic. And now with this debate that they've always had in the back of their mind, this inkling that, okay, maybe Biden isn't actually all that he has been portrayed and Weekend at Bernie's held up to be. And now Trump is actually, for them, the candidate of more stability between the two, which they probably never thought they would get to that point in their voting calculus. So that's the first one, is college-educated voters. But one of the biggest groups that swung was women. And it's fascinating because the Biden campaign has been trying to hit on the, I got rid of Roe versus Wade, and everybody wanted that. All the legal scholars said that that's what needed to happen. They've been playing that portion of Trump's response in the debate. And I think it just goes against the grain that, female voters are just going to be swayed by abortion, because they actually move significantly more towards inflation as their top issue. And this is becoming more of a pocketbook election and less about the personalities between the two, now that Biden has, used his depends on stage.
It's funny you brought that up, because I've heard people in the past, pollsters and political scientists, say the reality is people don't go out and have abortions, right? Women, especially if you're older and you've had kids, you're not thinking about, will I have an abortion? Do I need to have? But you are dealing with the realities of the economy every day. And so in terms of how the issues play into somebody's life on a day-to-day basis, one is sort of this existential theory. I think I'd like to make sure that right is preserved, if you will, versus I deal with this economy, I deal with this inflation every day when I'm at the store.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because the way voters look at how they're going to choose a candidate to vote for, they're voting to mitigate risk. So they want to make bad things go away more than they want good things to come their way. And if you think about politics, or really just human behavior in that aspect, you realize that, 2 years ago, after the Dobbs decision came out, that was an existential threat, because it was a clawing back of rights people felt that they had, even if they didn't need to use that right, like you said, with these older women who can't even have children anymore. But it's an issue to them because it's a right that existed that they felt was being taken away. And to your point, the inflation is really a right that's being taken away because I earn money and now it doesn't do enough for me, for my life to go on like I've been living my life and paying for my life. And that is much more of a front and center threat. And I think it's a lot of the reason that non-white voters have been moving towards Trump specifically, and Republicans to a little bit less extent, because they're feeling the brunt of this economy more than, say, the white majority voters are right now.
One of the things that I keep bringing up that worries me, and I get, like, it's not that I don't think we can't beat Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, or frankly anyone. I think the Trump record speaks for itself. I don't like X factors, okay? Maybe I'm just a worrywart or whatever. I like knowns. You remember Donald Rumsfeld? He was very famous during that Gulf, the post 9/11 invasion of Iraq. He said, you don't know the knowns, but you know the unknown, or whatever. I can't remember the exact phrase. It sounds very Biden-esque right now, but I like knowing Biden. I like what we have. I like the known, and what you just described to me. At least maybe I'm just hearing what I want to hear, and I want you to answer this. Like, am I being overly cautious? But I feel like what you're saying to me is these women, these other groups that are moving, want stability. They don't like what they're seeing with Biden. They're college educated, and they say to themselves, I don't think this guy can be the leader. If you switched in anybody else, Kamala Harris, Gavin, the dynamic shifts, and maybe we're still ahead, but maybe for different reasons. So just talk to me about how concerned should we be if Biden were to say, I'm tapping out, I'm naming Kamala the person, or I'm tapping out and there's going to be a primary and it's going to be, we'll have all the governors compete for it. Am I overly concerned, or are you saying, dude, don't worry about it, we got this?
Well, look back to the debate. And if you broke it up into 15-minute segments over the 90 minutes that it went on, the first 15 minutes was the absolute best of the debate because it showcased Biden's deficiencies. And Trump stayed on message talking about the impact that Biden's decisions and economy have on regular people. And as the debate progressed and it got into Trump being more defensive, or going after Biden in what was perceived as a mean way, as opposed to Biden's policies, you can go back and look at some of the dial tests that were being done during that, and it dropped for Trump. And so his absolute best 15 minutes of the debate was the very first part where he stayed on message. And then post-debate, when you look at what's happened, Donald Trump has said the least amount of things probably in his entire public career. And it is to his benefit. He's just letting Democrats stew within their own mess, and they're not going to be able to get out of it. And I would definitely advocate for more of that, where we don't talk about it and we just let them stew in it, because that's when people view stability as, okay, Trump is the stable candidate of the two. Even though I may not like everything he says or how he says it, he is the more stable of the two. And he's going to get rid of more problems in my life than Joe Biden is. And that's what we've got to do as Republicans, is continually make it about the problem, who caused the problem, and what we're going to do to fix it. And that's how we're going to win this election.
Okay, but that's get to, and I agree with everything you just said. But what I'm trying to get at is, if Biden said to the world today, I just heard Brent Buchanan on Sean Spicer's show, because we know they watch it. We see the clips that they post. Thank them not only for their support, but the advertising that they put towards the show. I've played that out. So we know they watch it, and they're listening to Brent Buchanan right now. And they hear the following. Does it, if Joe Biden gets out of the race and he is replaced by Kamala Harris or someone else, do they stand a better chance than Joe Biden does at beating him in November?
I think initially it would look like they stand a better chance. But really, Kamala is the only person they can swap in. One, for financial reasons, because she sits on the $250 million campaign account. She's the only one who can legally benefit from it if it's not Joe Biden. And then two, she has, pretty poor image. You can see from our poll earlier this month, right after the debate, but it's softer. So there are more people who know who she is but don't really have an opinion, or have a somewhat unfavorable opinion, versus more have a very unfavorable opinion of Biden. So I think on its face, initially, it would look like she might do better. But then once the Trump team comes in and defines her, and again, hopefully just lets her talk, because every time she does, she loses votes, that dynamic would change, and it would look more like the place you're in right now with Joe Biden versus Trump. And then if you were talking about some of these other governors who would love to be president, there's just no way in 100-something days to raise somebody's image and name identification and trustworthiness and stance on the issues in that short of a time period. So again, it would be Trump versus somebody else I don't know who's a Democrat. But the Trump team's going to have more microphone and space and oxygen to define that person than they're going to be able to define themselves. So, that's why I think the Democrats are really upset that Joe Biden is their nominee. But nobody who actually matters is stepping up to change it, because they know the next best alternative is a pretty bad alternative, and then there's really no alternatives beyond that except in fairy tale land.
Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.